Welcome, welcome. This is the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast, episode 1. And what this podcast is basically going to be about is going to be about the struggles of entrepreneurs who want to become entrepreneurs. And every week we're going to touch on different topics that are relevant to an entrepreneur in his pursuit of success, his or her. Gotta get it right again. Yeah. So we are going to discuss these issues, and today we are starting off with an issue. It's a phrase that I coined, and it's called a speed bump watcher. And I know most of you have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to speed bump watchers, so I'll explain it. What a speed bump watcher is basically a person that studies obstacles. They will tell you every single reason as to why an idea or a business venture that they have is not going to work, or not even their own, but maybe if you tell them you have an idea, they will point out every single reason as to why it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say it's a speed bump watcher is because most people that I know of, or at least I don't know anybody, that when they approach a speed bump, they don't sit there and tell you, well, this speed bump is high, my car is low, I don't know if I could make it over this. My bumper, I just put a kit on my car, I can't go over this bump. They just simply slow down, brace themselves, and go over the speed bump. So I call them speed bump watchers because, it doesn't make sense to be a speed bump watcher. You just slow down, take your time, you analyze it, and you go over slowly. So we're going to discuss speed bump watchers today. And today on episode 1, I have 2 other budding entrepreneurs with me. One being seedy head Travis.
Thanks.
Sweetie.
No, that's the Miller.
Miller, sorry, I apologize. Travis Miller.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I
have no shame in my seed.
Well, I ain't gonna lie. They look kind of soft. They look like nice soft. It ain't the same kind.
Support the puff.
Yeah, it ain't like if I had hair, if my hair actually grew,
thanks.
I would have the real hardcore seed piece.
Yeah, like I think before we even got on the show, we were talking about, it took me 27 years to grow facial hair.
Yeah.
So let me just
be
proud of the hair that I grew.
And it still look like you're struggling with that facial hair because I could see none grow on the side here. That's a little too smooth.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And we also have Gail Hanna.
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
That's it?
All, yes.
That's
Thank
it?
you.
What happened? You don't have nothing else to say?
I'm scared.
Don't worry, I ain't gonna bite you back.
Oh, Lord.
But first of all, I guess we need to introduce ourselves, so people know that we ain't just a bunch of slackers off the side of the road who decide we can talk about business.
Right.
So let me start with me. I bake cookies. 4 years ago, I was fired from a job that I was on for about 10 years.
What?
And I had 2 options. I could either sit around and mope and cry and complain as to why I shouldn't be fired, or I could, do something about it and start my own business. And to be honest with you, that was one of the best days of my life. When I got fired, I was actually happy.
Right.
I felt free. I felt liberated. Yeah, it was interesting. And people I tell that to all the time are like, listen, that was the happiest day of my life.
Wow.
I really felt free. So I started, I used to bake cookies for fun. Just on, Sunday, watching football or whatever, I'd bake them, eat them. And people would tell me all the time, you need to sell them. And at the time I had a job, so I saw no reason to sell them. Until I got fired, I put together a business and a formula and started selling them, and it's been growing ever since. And I can say I'm doing pretty well right now these days. So that's what I do. And Mr. Miller, please tell us what it is that you do, because I don't even know if I know what you do completely. I know you do something with computers, you build websites. Please let us know what you do.
Very, very vague. My name, thank you, Greg, for the vague. My name is Travis Miller. I build websites. If I had to do it like in a 3-word thing, like I bake cookies. I build websites, but I'm also a part of this cool group of people called Shift the Culture, and I work with other crazy people who do a lot of cool things, and we kind of learn and we collaborate and bounce ideas off of each other. So the main thing is building websites, and just like I wasn't fired, but it was a situation where I was working in the States for a while, and then I was on my work visa, which was temporary, and then I came back home, and I was like, I got to figure out what am I going to do next? So I put together a formula, like you said, and I kind of worked and did my own thing, freelancing and building websites. So I worked with a bunch of different brands and startups, and that's kind of how I got to where I am today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Gail.
Yes, sir.
We know that you anyhow, let me let you tell it. I ain't gonna job you on this one. Go ahead and let us know what it is you do.
I'm a serial entrepreneur and serial employee.
Yeah. Isn't that a conflict?
It can be sometimes, but I make it work.
Okay.
I started a business maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was a promotions company, and it failed. And subsequently, I was able to partner with a local photographer, videographer, graphic designer by the name of Graham Wilson, and we started the Catalyst Group. We've been about maybe a year, going on 2 years in operation, and it really proves, the power, like Travis mentioned, the power of connection, networking, etc., and basically capitalizing on what you're good at, your strengths or whatever. And so essentially he and I decided to start a company that would work with or capitalize on both of our strengths in our respective areas. You bake cookies, Travis builds websites, I do marketing. So
all right, I like that. You need, you know what?
Yeah.
You need to put that. You need to
That's
put
our
that on your
elevator
business
pitch.
card.
Eyes
Do marketing.
Okay.
I love that. See, we need to
Noted.
embrace our Bahamian roots. Too often we run away from our Bahamian roots.
Trying to pretend to be
trying to
professional.
pretend to be all professional and
Yes.
sound like other people. When you interview Usain Bolt and these other Jamaicans, when they finish, you can't understand a word they saying and they don't care.
Hold on.
So we
Greg,
need
one
to embrace.
second.
This is why I decide I can use my Bahamian vernacular in anything that I do because it's who I am.
Yes.
It's the culture that I'm from, and I'm going to continue to do it.
Nothing
Right.
wrong with that. So,
Now, I know in certain settings I would have to tone it down so people can understand me, but for anything like this, I decided to do it. Now, let's discuss it. Speed bump watches.
Yes.
Now-
What is this? Because you kind of went over it a little bit, but explain to us what.
Yes, like
It
I
is.
say, the person that always has an excuse or reason as to why a business idea or something they want to do is not going to work.
Yeah.
Someone that studies obstacles.
Right. Yes.
Speed bumps can be seen as obstacles. This is the person that studies obstacles. So, Travis, can you give us a list of things, the common reasons?
Give us
Man.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give us a common reason. I think we all know what this one is going to be, but you can give us a common reason as to why
There's so
what
much.
speed bump watches come up with.
Surprise,
There's
yes.
so
Okay,
much.
but let us know.
Like,
Go ahead.
The number one common reason is that I don't have enough time.
Time.
Okay, I wasn't
Time.
going to say that one,
Okay.
but that's interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But in a sense, like that's the general thing for most things, like working out, going to gym or whatever like that. That's your go-to thing. But in the context of starting your own thing or your business, is probably to the person that has a lot of stuff going on right now or thinks they have a lot of stuff going on right now. And it's like, I don't know when I'm gonna fit it in. I want to do this thing. I just don't know where I'm gonna find the time to do it. And me personally, I've been watching a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk.
Whoop, whoop.
That's
Shout
my
out
boy.
Gary V.
Recently.
Yeah.
And time really isn't an excuse when you could carve out that a lot of time throughout the day. And I really don't understand it for like I say, me, I'm single. I don't have a girlfriend or anything like that. I don't have any
Ladies,
pets.
yes.
You know,
Make notes.
Exactly.
So
children.
I may have a lot more time than somebody that has 3 kids, a wife.
Right.
No,
to those different
you have
things.
the same amount of
Same
time.
amount of time.
But exactly, but you have the same amount of time as well as
Yeah.
I get to exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. And I tell people all the time, listen, this is how you do it, right? You break down. It's 24 hours a day in a day. Everyone, like Gail said, everyone has the same 24 hours. Now you break it down, and that way you sleep. What most people sleep 6 to 8 hours.
If you get
Yeah.
6 to 8, you're
Most
doing
sane
good.
people.
Yeah.
Right. I probably sleep about 4 hours a day,
Right, yeah.
maybe 5 if I'm
Right.
lucky.
Yeah.
But most people, let's say 6 to 8 hours, right? So you take away that 8 hours from the 24, and that gives you 16 hours left. If
Right.
you have a job, most jobs you work 40 hours a week, which is about 8 hours a day. You take
Right.
away another 8. All right. And how much time do you have left? You still have 8 hours left, right? So what are you doing in that 8 hours time? See, the thing is, most people say they don't have time. When they do, the thing is they prioritize other things with their time.
Right.
Like watching hip hop, loving hip hop,
Game of
Scandal,
Thrones.
Game of Thrones, or playing NBA 2K or Madden or a Call of Duty, whatever it is. See, it's all a matter of priorities when it comes to time. So that's a lousy excuse that most people give, but it is a very common one. Gail, would you like to give us another excuse?
I think uncertainty in terms
Okay, another
of
interesting one.
having a safety net.
Mm.
For example, the 9 to 5 is, I know I work X amount of hours for this period of time. I'm getting X amount of dollars. Whereas if I, start a business, I'm unsure. And a lot of times, if you're genuine with yourself or honest with yourself, being an entrepreneur, there's no guarantee that you're going to make money
No.
within even
X
the
amount
first
of-
6
yeah.
months to a year. It's even possible where the money that you think you may make, you most likely will not. And so I think a lot of people get scared of the uncertainty of not having that
So you mean more like security, like that?
Yeah, that safety net that says, you know, if I do this, I am sure of these results. But if I start my own business, you know, I'm not sure how this is gonna go. I'm not sure how much money I'm gonna have. Blah blah blah.
All that stuff. But it's so much variables though. Like I mean, like people don't weigh what you could get out of it if it really goes off versus you know like
the negative,
asking all the questions and it isn't really tangible if you do or do not do it.
It's that's just most people are very myopic, right? They are short-sighted. They only can see right in front of them. They don't look at the bigger picture in most circumstances. Because in that situation, okay, say you have a job. Okay, well, I get this $350 a week. Well, exactly. You only will be getting that $350 a week, which really can't do much.
One of my favorite quotes that I mentioned that found us at a flick a couple months ago was that if you know how much you're making next month, you're broke. So that's real. If you can say, you know, if you can say I'm going to make, you know, $900 next month, you know, congratulations to you, but you are limiting yourself.
Exactly. You have a ceiling.
Yes, you're putting a ceiling on yourself.
Yeah, very low on that.
Yeah.
And what I think that is tantamount to is a lack of confidence. You understand? They don't have a lot of confidence in themselves. You see, because if you are a confident person, you will figure it out and you will make a way for you to make the money that you want to make.
I think that's is having a lack of confidence and lack of worth. I mean, of self-worth, like knowing how much you're worth.
Right.
And that's something that comes with time too, because like we all got at that stage where, you know, for the most part we all work salary jobs where we got X amount a month that was comfortable and fine.
Yeah.
But then as you go and you grow in your career, you start to see the value that you bring to a company, and now that's a little bit more tangible. You say, oh, I could do this at this company and that company, and then you start to take that to the next level and say, oh, I could probably it's different stages. I could do this on my own, or I could do this more than what I was initially getting. But people that kind of stumble on that, they don't have that kind of inner dialogue with themselves of how much am I really worth, or am I just doing a job just to do a job.
And I think what hinders a lot of people is keeping in certain circles or certain mental environments where, you know, I think between the three of us, you know, we watch the videos and we've read the articles and stuff like that. And even though you may do those things, you still may not take the leap to be an entrepreneur, to start your own business. And so it really helps to have people around you that maybe have done it before or are doing it now that could provide that sort of mental support for you.
Right.
Basically,
so that you'll be able to take that next step.
Right. And those are two ones that I didn't think would be at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and give the
Major
top
one?
reason that I feel people have.
Money.
And with, you got it, Gail. You know what it is. But I ain't got no money.
Right.
I don't have money.
Well, we didn't think about it because
Gail
it
wasting the bear. I think Gail broke now. But here's the people say, I don't have no money. And these are the people that feel as though you need to have money and a certain amount of money to start a business. Which maybe at one point was more true than it is in this day and age, this era of technology and access that we live in. I think that may have been more true, say, 15, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, I'll use myself for example.
Thank you.
Right? I started my business with a bag of flour, bag of sugar, a couple of eggs, some chocolate chips, chocolate chunks, and these are all, you know, usually household items that you just have knocking around. And so even if I didn't have these things around, it wouldn't be a lot of money to go out and get them. So my thing is, okay, you recognize that it's going to take a certain amount of funds to do certain things, but start where you're at.
Right.
Start with the money that you do have or do have access to. Oftentimes people, and it's not wrong to, it's not bad to have big dreams, big ideas.
You start too big.
Yeah, but you have to be realistic as to the access you have at that time. So you use the funds that you have, get the things to just get started. Just start for once. Just get started. No matter how small it may be, you get started and then you continue to build. And as you build funds, you expand. So that's the number one reason that I often hear people come up with is money.
Well, I've spoken with a few people. You know, they're trying to get, for example, storefront off the top.
Right.
They're trying to talk about, these major expenses that you don't even need in this day and age to start a business.
There yet.
Yeah,
right.
like startup costs have been, they've been lowered astronomically due to the internet. You don't need a storefront anymore. You can start something online, for example. You could get a website from Travis. Shameless plug.
Exactly.
There are different things that you can do now
Shameless
that
plug.
You don't have to. You don't have to pay employees. You don't have to pay electricity.
Right.
You could do this at home. So what's your next excuse? And I feel as though a lot of people, when they have the idea of the business in their mind, it's too big for them. And I usually say, okay, it's great for long-term plans, but let's see what you can do right now.
Yeah.
What can you afford right now?
Yeah.
What small steps can you take? Is there something you can do online? Is there something blah, blah, blah? And you kind of go through it. And a lot of people can't get to that smaller point. Like you say, household items, etc. A lot of people would probably try to open up a bakery and buy equipment and need a capital. And
First.
Exactly.
But a lot of times the business ideas that you have are very simple to start if you could only get to that, minuscule point.
And then you can just scale.
And people don't realize, like most of the biggest companies right now literally started in a garage with one or two people. Apple is a great example.
And
two dudes in a garage.
And I'll give you this too, like more recent example, and it's definitely right with the internet. And you don't have to be a genius to hack the internet. So there's this startup called Instacart, where in the States they partner with local grocery stores, and you access the grocery store's database, and then you could see all the food that they have in there, and then you could order for delivery. So this is how they first started. It was only two guys. They had a simple landing page, so it was just one page of a website,
Right.
and then they had a fax number at the bottom that people could click on or call. And this number was a fax. Like I said, it went to a fax machine. The order went through the fax, and these two guys would literally go out themselves, go to the grocery stores with the order, and then deliver it to the person's doorstep. It wasn't a lot and it wasn't fancy at all, but it was a proof of concept, and it started at a small place using simple things that you could do.
Yeah.
Right.
And then what they did it enough where they got traction, and then people bought into the idea, and then slowly they bought a developer or they bought someone to do design or marketing.
Yeah.
It's like you could start little and just scale at different points.
Right. And that's the thing. I say if you, when it comes to an idea, if the first thing you think of is why it's not going to work, then you don't need to be in business.
I honestly hate that, Greg. And I have experienced that on numerous occasions where I've said, this is a good idea.
Right.
In my mind, it may not be polished or it may not be a finished idea, but it's an idea.
Right.
And instead of trying to go through all the ways that it can work, 9 times out of 10, people will immediately try to tell you why it won't work or why this will go wrong or that'll go wrong. I think another idea that another fear that people have also is this whole concept of the economy. I don't know if you've heard that before, where people think they want to start their own business, but the economy is bad, or there's not enough money for this.
Or there's no market for it.
There's no market, or, something to that effect.
Right.
I don't know if you've experienced that.
I've actually had my uncle, I'm not going to say which one, but...
well, we can narrow it down from there.
Oh, no, I got plenty of uncles now. Yeah. But one of my uncles was like every time they see me, it's like is a market for that? Like for cookies? Like people can't wrap their minds around you can actually take something and make it successful. They just can't grasp it. They've just been brought up in a culture as to where, you go to school, you get a job, you wait for somebody, you retire, and that's it. Anything outside of that is like they can't wrap their minds around. So I'm like, what do you mean? Even if there is no market, you create the market for it.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So even if the market isn't there, the people are there.
Yeah.
So you create that lane for yourself and for your customer base. And most people just can't grasp that concept. So it's like I was saying, if the first thing you come up with when it comes to a business idea is the reasons why it can't work, buddy, then entrepreneurship is not for you.
Right.
Correct.
But there was a video recently kind of touching a little bit. I don't know if anybody saw it online, where it was... It was I don't know if this is a true or not. Well, I haven't backed the sources, but it was an experiment so far where people put this scientist or whatever put 5 monkeys in a cage.
Yep.
And then they put a banana on top of the ladder, on top of the ladder. And then anytime one of the monkeys would go pick at the banana, water would come down or something would come down to kind of anger the monkeys, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually that behavior started to trigger with that habit. And then one by one, they would take a monkey that was in the cage out and put a new monkey in there. So that new monkey had no idea of what was causing that trigger.
Yeah.
But what it did is that rage kind of insinuated whenever that happened.
Yeah.
Because they stopped doing the effect where the water would come down. It's just that effect of going up the ladder. But this kind of tied to is that you just don't do it. Like, people don't question why you just don't go in this market or you just don't do this thing.
Yeah.
But when you ask them and challenge them why, they can't really tell you past that point of doing that. And that was like a big eye-opener for me.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's true. And that is true in a lot of circumstances, not even just with business. But and in other areas, just our social construct, our social development, it really has taken a toll on us. So, any other reasons?
Yeah.
Anything else? What else?
Another speed bump that people watch is fear of failure.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Huge Bahamian specific.
That's a big one.
Yeah. It's like, if I try this, what if I fail? And a big part, I mean, of course, through learning myself and then also watching videos and reading, is that failure is such an essential part of entrepreneurship. It's not funny. Like, if you have not failed, you're not officially an entrepreneur. Honestly, that's part of the definition. And so, to say that you fear failing as an excuse to not start a business, that's like shooting yourself before you even get out the gate. I don't know if you had any experience with that, Travis, in terms of failing in your business all
the time, where whether it was situations where things just didn't go through, out of my control, my own personal beliefs, where I feel like I couldn't do a lot of things, or people even literally blocking you. Failure comes in a lot of different forms, but two things I learned, especially Bahamians like to watch what other Bahamians are doing. We can't deny that. You could debate that if you want, but I would say like they just like to see it. But with me in particular, I kind of shut that off. Like, it really, if they watch you or they don't watch you, it doesn't affect what you do in your business on a day-to-day. You know what I mean? Unless they are literally a person in front of your door saying, no, you can't walk in. Even at that point, it's still ridiculous. And it doesn't really factor into your business model. People watching you should not factor into your business model. And when you start to learn that it really doesn't matter, that you start to think of that as an obstacle or a speed bump less and less. But one particular instance of failure in particular, I remember one time where I sent a proposal to a client, and my prices was high. I needed to cut it. But then they went with a cheaper option, and they're pretty transparent about why they went with the cheaper option, because it was cheaper.
Right.
So when I first initially did that, it was like, oh, well, okay, I lost that. So, and it was just starting to get started, and it was like, okay, I really need to figure out how to do this web thing. And they went with the cheaper option, and then I figured it out, and I went on, and then eventually that client came back. And it's like, oh, we should have gone with you the first time. We didn't know we're doing. Now the whole site is messed up. They got what they paid for.
That happens a lot too.
It was a lot. But there's two lessons that came out of that, is that you keep going even though you didn't get that one. That doesn't stop you from doing that. And then you still be the best business person you could be and add value, because in a situation like that, the client still had me in the back of their mind. In terms of, oh, he's still the thought leader or the person leading that path.
You probably took the rejection very well, which is also a positive thing. And then I usually mention to people as well, not everybody is your customer. Like, it's okay. Sometimes people aren't in their budget is not in your price point and all these other things. And when you start to see yourself lowering your prices and stuff like that, I know I kind of veering off topic, but Travis kind of inspired that. When you start to think about lowering your prices and offering more for less and so on, you usually end up with a client from hell. That's what I call it. So sometimes it's okay, this is not in your budget. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and just keep it moving. So,
And to touch on the fear of failure, I think it's also interesting how you define failure. Because I no longer see these things as failure. What I see them as is learning experiences.
Part of the process.
So it's all about your perspective and how you look at things.
Yeah.
And another thing, I don't know why people are so afraid of the failure, because let's be honest, I mean, it's not like your life is all peachy and bubbly and off the chains right now. You
Must appear
understand?
so.
So what is there for you
I have
to
a perfect
lose?
track
It
record
must
if I
appear
do
so.
this.
You know, like what
Yeah.
what are
It's
you
a
going to
problem.
lose?
No, but it's a problem to appear as though you're not doing as well as people
So it's
would like
more-
to think you are. So it's a pride thing, and it's
More
I think
perception.
with our
They're concerned with perception
Yes.
as opposed to
Reality,
the reality of their
yes.
situation.
Yeah.
Again, which it makes it a mental thing, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
There's
Yeah.
a meme too that says, you got a job, 100 likes and congrats, 40 comments, or I started my own business, 3 likes
Right.
and 2
Yeah,
comments.
two
Like
comments.
Exactly.
when you're starting out, it's amazing the lack of support that you get from the people that you think are going to support you.
Mhm.
And honestly, that was a big wake up call for me. With starting the Catalyst group, that you expecting for some reason, oh, we're friends and we party every weekend or whatever, and then you
customers.
starting a business, and then it's like, what she thinks she doing?
Mhm.
She copying so and so,
Mhm.
or these certain things. And I think that helped to build a lot of my confidence as an entrepreneur, to know that the support that I thought I was gonna get, I did not get, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you will find support and people that support you outside of your circle, and that's when your circles change as well.
Mhm.
So I think that's another interesting point. If you're afraid of failing or you're afraid of it, just realize that people are not going to support you the way you think they are. The people that you care about noticing, whether or not you're doing as good as they perceive you to be doing,
Right.
Mhm.
it does not matter, because at the end of the day, you got to do this for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And I think I can. I'll round this one off. We'll do 5 today, because that's 4 we've done so far.
we had one more.
You had one more. Go ahead. Okay, maybe we
have a
can
lot.
we can
I
make
mean,
it
like,
6.
We have a
Yeah.
if
If
this-
this-
We
if
could
this
go.
If this isn't the same one, then we'll extend it. Go ahead. What's the other
A
one?
lack of entrepreneurial skills.
whatever the hell that means.
A lot of people feel as though they don't have a certain skill
Or
set to start a
DNA.
business. Like, you need to be able to do maybe accounting, maybe you
But let
need
me
to
ask you
do
this.
marketing, or
Do
you
they
need to
even
do-
know? Do they even know what the skill or skills are?
to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Probably
Do
not.
they know?
Which is
Because-
why they fear that.
Because I'll say this: you need one major skill, and that is resourcefulness.
Mm-hmm.
Not resources, resourcefulness. Because with resourcefulness, you will acquire the resources that you need. You understand? Now, we know there's other things. You need determination, you need drive, you need all these other things. But I think, personally, I could be wrong, but personally, I feel the most important skill is resourcefulness.
You got to be your own personal MacGyver.
Yeah,
That's
you have to
that's how I
make
look at
whatever
it.
you have work.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to make adjustments on the fly. You have to be, so it takes a great deal of awareness. You have to be, and that's self-awareness. You can't be delusional. You have to be self-aware to recognize when something
When you
isn't
run it out.
working
Yes.
and what change you need to make in order to make it work. So I think resourcefulness, I mean, that's just one major one. You could probably add, if you could add more skills that you feel it takes to be an entrepreneur that they may or may not be aware of that they may need.
I think an extension of that. I don't know if it comes before or after. What if extension probably come after? I guess maybe. If you're going that way. But I think you just have to be. You have to be stubborn. You have to be
Yeah,
really,
that's a major
really,
one
really,
too.
really stubborn.
Yeah.
And I think that ties into resourcefulness, because it's like you're not satisfied with your current situation, or you realize you need more, and it's like you're gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna stop here. I need to do something else. And that same type of stubbornness is the same thing that's gonna get you to keep going. It's kind of driving, even after you're out of gas, the fumes, to kind of be like, okay, I need to do this and I need to do this. It might be, and that might be another conversation for another podcast. It may be good, it might be bad, because there is pros and cons to a lot of things.
And to touch on that stubbornness is also what you're gonna need to deal with speed bump watchers that are around you,
Yeah.
because they're gonna tell you all the reasons why, and you have to be stubborn to not listen to them
Right.
and their reasons as to why your idea won't work. What else you feel entrepreneur needs, Gail?
Oh,
Yeah,
and
sorry.
I I mean, touching on that point, actually, it was that don't be afraid to enlist other people who may have the skill set that you're lacking. So if you are unable to do your own accounting, find somebody in your network or whomever. People are always generally willing to help if they see that you're doing something for yourself. And so if I needed a website, I go to Travis, Travis, I need this website.
Right.
I may not have the.
Don't worry about that. That's all fair. That's all fair. That's all fair.
I mean, need for the full thing, but maybe you give me this, and then I could promote you in this. Barter, work something out, and network, and
36
it'll
month
be okay, right? Yeah.
Travis and cheap.
That's because his work is so good.
But hey, it's worth it. Once you get him, you ain't got to worry about nothing. You ain't got to.
No more.
You ain't got to hire nobody to fix what he didn't do. So so the other one was I'm sorry. Entrepreneurial skills.
Using your network.
They feel they don't
using
have
your network, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to pay. Don't be afraid to do it.
Well, behemoths don't like spend money.
No.
Let me add on. Okay, so you said another one was they don't feel like they have the skill.
Fear of competition.
That's another one. I don't have that too often. Well,
yes.
Fair.
Okay, and what I say is, you could do what I do, but you're not going to do it the way I do it.
Exactly.
Right.
And a lot of people feel like, Greg have his cookie business. I can't start no cookie thing because then blah, 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 blah. Or so-and-so might start something when they see I do it. Like, you can't allow whatever's happening. Yeah, someone's going to take, that's a big one.
That's a big,
good Lord.
Huge, that's a Bahamian.
That's for sharing, though. Like, they don't want to share their idea. Yeah. I don't want to share my cookie business because Timmy could take my idea and do it. And it's scary, actually, the mindset that allows you to think that you could compete with somebody else. Like, you just...
And again, that's a lack of confidence again.
You cannot.
People aren't confident in themselves to feel as though they could stand up to whoever may challenge, because once you start something, I mean, I'm sure if it's successful, you're gonna have copycats.
Yes.
And you're in constant competition. That's why Mark Cuban says all the time, business is 24/7.
Yeah.
Athletes, they have this little window they play, and that's it. Business is 24/7.
Yeah.
Every day of the week.
You're not the first to do what you're doing, and most likely you will not be the last. So try to be the best.
You're in constant competition.
Yep.
Let me add one to that.
Woo.
And this is one I hear quite often.
All right. Drum roll, please.
It ain't the right time.
Oh,
it ain't the right time.
That's what y'all mind to say about marriage. Oh, that's the wrong podcast. That's the wrong podcast. My bad. That's under the rug. Like us on Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
man.
But that's
timing.
Yeah,
timing.
And you often hear this from people that are gainfully employed.
Yes.
Like people who have jobs. They're like, I just got to do this first, or I got to make sure I have this in
line
place.
up. Yep.
Yeah, I got to go here.
Gosh.
It's never the right time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tell us about it, Travis. What's your experience with people who feel like they don't have the right time?
This is the thing. We kind of in the tech space, they have this mantra going saying like done is better than perfect. Because they
That's nice.
firmly believe
I like that.
You just gotta I like that.
I like that.
Where you could spend all the time polishing up an idea. It never sees the light of day versus your competitor might just say, no, we need to get this out now. They hit the market first, and then you're left up shit creek because you wanted to wait till it was perfect and everything like that. I just feel the lesson in that from a tech perspective is that if you wait for the right time, you're gonna overthink a lot of things. You're gonna go a lot of different directions without testing the market, and then you're gonna work on this beautiful aircraft that can't even get off ground because you wanted this to be this way and that to be that way. My thought on timing is that it might sound cliche, but now is now is always the right time.
Now is the only time we really have.
Right. Exactly.
For sure.
You're not assured tomorrow.
And pro tip for entrepreneur, you're never gonna have everything lined up.
Exactly.
Nothing lines up.
Tweet that.
We still don't have shit lined up. I don't know about you. Like shit
geez.
I had shit on my list from like 2014.
Yeah.
That may be a good or bad thing, but the thing is I wouldn't have been where I am today or done the things that I've done or get the opportunities that I had if I just waited for the right time before I had that meeting or before I launched that website or I did those things.
I hear this one a lot. Oh, that was my idea.
Oh,
That was my
That-
idea.
that's-
How
that's-
did they do that? That
that's
was
the
my
person that
idea.
was
Yeah.
waiting
For the right
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And when you wait for the right time, you will be still there waiting while somebody else
Exactly.
does what your idea or what brilliant thing you thought was. Yeah.
Swoops
Congratulations.
right in and implements your idea,
Yeah.
and then you can be
I hear
there.
that one a lot.
Sucking your teeth and being mad and taking their teeth your idea.
Yeah.
When in the case, you should have just acted when you
Right.
had the idea.
Right.
Because like you said, the time is always now. Figure it out as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Just start. So, any more reasons? Any more excuses?
I think,
Or we think we covered the
yeah.
basic.
Well, those
The
are
more
the
common
basics.
ones.
But I
yeah.
do think another speed bump that people watch is that, and this is an important one too, and this might hit home to a lot of people, is that it's not what my parents want me to do.
Oh gosh.
It's not.
Talk about that, Pastor Miller.
Yes, and then the church said
9 to 5.
9 to 5. No, and in some type of level of shade, again, as an entrepreneur, you get it all the time. You just get it in different levels in terms of like, actually doing what you thought what you're gonna do. You even have, and this is the thing too, and this might surprise a lot of people as well, where even your friends, they kind of throw that shade in nice ways. So they'll be like, "Oh, so how's that business going?"
Yeah, expecting
Right.
you to
You know,
say.
and if you don't watch it, I mean, not all are like that, but
No,
people
it's
be like,
true. Yeah.
if they're legitimately concerned, especially if you had long conversations like that. But if you run
Yeah.
into a friend that
Just
doesn't know
random.
what's going on in your life, so how's that thing going?
yeah.
You know, and that's like the nicest way thing to say, "Oh, you still doing that foolishness?" Or stuff like that. So
When
you
I
get it all the
told
time.
my mom I was starting a gala's group, it was like, you need to get a job,
Yep.
like now, like
Right.
9 to 5, you need blah, blah, blah. And then I heard on the phone the other day, like, oh, Gail doing our marketing business and all that. I was like,
Yeah, after you get done, after
well,
you do it,
yeah,
after you do
where
it.
you was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
after
a
you
lot
do
of
it.
people. What
I
happened is-
tried to show her like my cards and my business
Right.
license and all these things, and all of a sudden now it's validated. But that
Yeah.
is a huge thing
Yeah,
in
see,
our society.
That's the thing. Most people, you gotta realize, most people have to see it to believe it.
Right.
And those people are parents.
They
are
have
the
to be
ones that,
validated, yeah.
They have to see it to believe it.
Yep.
To be an entrepreneur, you have to believe it to see it. You understand?
Quote
Tweet
that.
that.
Quote
Yeah,
Tweet
tweet
that.
that.
Tweet
You
that.
have to see
We'll do a screencast
what
and
isn't
just do
there.
it.
You have to almost be looking around the corner and see things that aren't already there,
Yeah,
and you work
that's
to
a
make
lot
them a
of
reality.
faith, yeah.
Now,
see-
I have a challenge to throw to that.
Okay.
Is that, I mean, that's just a general standard, of course, but more so here, importantly, is that because you have a lot of people going around saying they're entrepreneurs, or a lot of people that are trying to done stuff and they haven't executed, or they haven't, like they
Well-
said, "Oh, I'm gonna do this thing,"
Yeah.
and they never do it.
Entrepreneur is the new black.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that. It's
Yeah.
now become cool to, say you're an entrepreneur and you're going to be starting your own business. I agree with you.
But
on
But they
that.
kind of
Question-
screw the market that
But
way,
your
especially
question
if they
is,
don't.
do you feel you asking if people like that, if they've given entrepreneurs a bad name by
Kind
not
of.
doing
If you haven't shown and it's kind of a breath of fresh air when you actually see an entrepreneur actually do these things and do
Right.
these things a long period of time. Like even with Shift the Culture, related or not related to work, I've people saying, "Wow, I've been watching you for X amount
Right.
of months or years, and you talk the talk, you walk the walk," and it's kind of sad, but it's still good at the same time because it's like it's good that they're watching,
Right.
but it's like they had to watch
They have to
before
yeah.
doing it because more cases than not they got burned,
Right.
and they're like either gave money to this event or this
Right.
cause and it didn't go through. So they're kind of the whole market is like, oh, we really have to see what's going on before we do anything.
Well, to answer the question, I think it is to a certain degree, but I still feel it's to a lesser degree. I think more so the doubt comes from what we spoke on earlier was the social conditioning and just,
Right.
ingrained in their brains that there's a certain way you're supposed to go and only a certain group of people, are cut for a certain
For this thing,
for entrepreneurship, and they just don't feel that it's you.
Yeah.
You understand? So, I mean, to a certain degree, yeah, but I think more so
Because
social
of the social
conditioning,
conditioning.
plays
sense.
more of a role in that doubt.
Yeah.
That's how I feel personally. But I wanted to touch on something you said, but I already forget. I must be getting old. Anyhow, if we don't have any more points to touch on, I mean, I know that we've been on
it's a
about
major
we approaching
one.
about 40 minutes. So
Okay, we
I
did
say
good.
I want to keep it to
We
about
did
a
all right.
half hour to about 45 minutes because people who listening probably got stuff to do. They got porn to watch and
No.
Game of Thrones to watch it.
Right. Whoa.
Other things to do.
more, more speed bumps.
Yeah,
Just
they
call
gotta,
it speed bumps.
they got this
Yeah.
time that they don't have. They
Yes.
gotta spend doing other things with
Yes.
this imaginary time that they don't have to put on important things to improve their life.
Right. Yes.
So this is we're gonna bring episode 1 to a close.
Very dope.
This was wonderful. I appreciate you guys for coming through and lending your gems to this conversation.
Yes, Greg, and thank you for providing, the space and the forums to have
platform.
conversations
Yes.
such as these. We appreciate it.
Well,
And
hey,
shout
I
out to
mean-
Theory Exchange, for
Yes,
the
yes,
space.
yes.
All that stuff.
Yes, yes.
Shift the
Travis.
culture.
And I bring up your name earlier. Let me apologize, Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Travis Miller.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you for
Lord of the Peas.
Yes, thank you for
What?
affording us this wonderful facility for us to record these episodes. And this is basically going to be what we're going to do. We're going to do it every week. We're going to have a topic, and we're going to expound on it from our perspective, just to try to encourage, entrepreneurs, up-and-coming entrepreneurs, in their ventures or anything that they want to do. And we're going to close with the saying, losers make excuses, winners make adjustments.
Both
Until
Amen.
next time.
drops mic.
Boom. Thank you, everybody.